There are moments in every soul's journey when the heavens go quiet. You pray but hear nothing. You seek but find only stillness. You ache for a sign, a word, a whisper from above, but the silence remains. For many, this silence feels like abandonment. It stirs fear, doubt, even anger. Where is God? Becomes not a question but a cry. And in that cry, something ancient awakens, because you are not the first to feel this silence. The Psalms are filled with it. My God, why have you forsaken me? These words, cried by David and echoed by Christ on the cross, carry the weight of divine silence. C.S. Lewis felt it too. After losing his wife, Joy, he wrote in his journal, "When you are happy, you are so. It seems welcomed with open arms, but go to him when your need is desperate. And what do you find? A door slammed in your face." These words are raw, honest, and holy, because they reveal something few dare to say. Even the faithful feel forsaken. Even the devout encounter emptiness. This silence is not failure. It is part of the path. The silence of God is not a punishment. It is a place, a wilderness, a waiting room, a furnace where faith is tested not by answers but by absence. And in this absence, something deeper can emerge. Not certainty but surrender. Not noise but attention. Not control but trust. The saints, the prophets, the poets, they all walked through this valley. Not around it but through it. And they emerged not always with explanations, but with transformation. The silence didn't break them, it deepened them. In the next part, we'll explore why this silence exists, what it reveals about the nature of God, and how to walk through it without losing your soul. Why is God silent? It's a question that has haunted hearts for centuries. In times of crisis, in seasons of grief, when the world is falling apart or the soul is breaking, why doesn't heaven speak? One answer lies in how we listen. We often expect God to speak in thunder, in miracles, in clear signs. We look for the dramatic, the undeniable, the immediate. But God rarely speaks on our terms. He is not a servant of our emotional demands. His silence is not absence, it is presence in a different form. It is presence that invites rather than invades. Presence that draws you deeper instead of louder. The silence of God is not always withholding, it is forming. Like the silence of a teacher during a test. Like the silence of a sculptor, still shaping what he began. C.S. Lewis came to see this not as cruelty, but as mystery. He wrote, "The silence of God is the most powerful voice of all. It is not the absence of communication, but a different language altogether. In silence, the soul is stripped. Our illusions are exposed. Our idols crumble. We are left with ourselves and God. Not the God we imagined, but the God who is. And this God often comes wrapped in paradox, hidden in stillness, present in absence. The desert fathers of early Christianity embraced this. They went into the wilderness not to escape, but to encounter. And what they encountered first was silence. Silence that burned, silence that purified, silence that taught them to listen not with the ears, but with the heart. The same is true for us. The silence of God is not empty space, it is sacred space. It is a place where your false images of God die, and a deeper knowing begins. It is where faith is no longer a feeling, but a choice, a surrender, a trust that says, even her, even no I will remain. In the next part, we'll explore how to walk through this silence with courage and grace, and how others throughout history have found God not by avoiding the silence, but by embracing it. When God is silent, a soul stands on holy ground, not because it feels divine, but because it is being refined. Throughout history, those who walked closest to God did not escape the silence. They entered it, and in that stillness, they discovered something deeper than emotion, something eternal. Take Mother Teresa. For decades, she experienced what she called the dark night of the soul. She wrote, "I am told God loves me, and yet the reality of darkness and coldness and emptiness is so great that nothing touches my soul." Yet even in that silence, she kept loving, serving. Her faith was not built on what she felt, but on what she chose. She didn't wait for the silence to end. She became light within it. The mystic John of the Cross described the same experience. For him, the silence was fire. It burned away the ego, the false attachments, the shallow comforts of religion. In that painful emptiness, he found God not as comfort but as consuming presence, a love so vast it could only be known through surrender. C.S. Lewis, in his grief, realized that silence forced him to ask harder questions. Was God silent, or had he stopped listening? Was he seeking comfort or transformation? In time, he came to see that the silence was not absent, but invitation. It was God drawing him out of emotional dependency and into mature faith. The silence of God is not a void, it is a summons. It calls us beyond surface prayers, beyond easy beliefs, beyond the need for constant reassurance. It asks us to stay, to wait, to trust. The saints and mystics did not deny their pain. They wept, they doubted, but they stayed. And in staying, they were changed. Their silence became a sanctuary, a place where the deepest truths were not spoken but revealed. In the next part, we'll explore how you too can walk through divine silence not as punishment, but as pilgrimage, a journey that doesn't erase the silence, but finds meaning through it. To walk through the silence of God is to become a pilgrim of the soul, a narrow road where the usual comforts vanish, and only what is essential remains. Many lose heart here. They assume silence means rejection, that if God does not speak, he does not care. But this is where the journey begins, not with answers, but with resolve. Faith matures not when it is rewarded, but when it is refined, and refinement happens in silence. The pilgrim heart learns to move forward not because it hears, but because it trusts. Like Abraham, walking up the mountain without knowing what will happen. Like Job, sitting in ashes, refusing to curse the God he cannot understand. Like Mary, holding mystery in her womb and hearing no explanation. The silence does not mean there is no path. It means you are walking by faith, not by sight. And this faith is not blindness. It is vision of a different kind. It sees with the eyes of the heart. It listens not for noise, but for presence. It finds in every breath, in every sunrise, in every still moment, the whisper, I am still with you. The soul's pilgrimage through silence requires sacred practices: stillness, journaling, simplicity, honesty. In prayer, not performance, but truth. God, I do not understand, but I am here. That is enough. That is holy. Community also matters. Though the silence is personal, it is not meant to be endured in isolation. Others have walked this road. Their stories light the way. Their faith strengthens yours. And sometimes, your silent faith strengthens theirs. This pilgrimage is not about escaping the silence. It is about becoming someone new within it. Someone who no longer depends on constant affirmation but on abiding trust. Someone who knows that even in the absence of voice, the presence of God can still hold you. In the final part, we'll reflect on how to live beyond the silence, not by forgetting it, but by letting it shape a deeper peace, a stronger soul, and a clearer vision of God. What happens after the silence? When the soul has walked through the desert, waded through the stillness, and faced the hiddenness of God, what remains? Not all silence ends in a sudden word or miracle. Sometimes the heavens do not thunder. Sometimes the answer is not a voice but a change in the heart. What remains is not always clarity but peace, not certainty but trust. You begin to see that the silence was not a void but a vessel. It carried you into deeper faith. It stripped away the noise. It purified your prayers. It taught you how to stay, how to listen, how to wait. The soul that has survived divine silence is no longer shallow. It is no longer driven by feelings alone. It has roots. It has depth. It is strong not because it never doubted, but because it did and still remained. This is the gift hidden inside the silence. Transformation. The kind of faith that no storm can take. The kind of peace that no answer can replace. C.S. Lewis emerged from his silence changed. He did not forget his grief, but it no longer controlled him. He once wrote, "He who has God and everything else has no more than he who has God only." That is the wisdom of one who has passed through absence and found presence again, not loud, but eternal. When heaven feels empty, it is not always because God is gone, but because he is drawing you into deeper communion. Not through explanation, but through trust. Not through noise, but through know. You learn to walk with him in the dark, to hold his hand when you cannot see his face. And in that, you discover something sacred. The silence becomes holy, the emptiness becomes full, and your faith becomes unshakable, not because you always hear, but because you have learned to stay. If this reflection has touched your heart, subscribe to the Sower of Meaning for weekly insights into spiritual depth, emotional healing, and the mystery of God's presence. Leave a comment. What has silence taught you? And remember, when heaven feels empty, it may be that God is closer than ever, speaking in the language only silence can carry.